Eons, Doll of Marble had sat in the heart of an abandoned ruin, surrounded by the crumbled vestiges of civilizations long forgotten. Vines crept over shattered stone, and the roots of towering trees had woven themselves into her sanctuary, all but sealing her off from the world. The sky above was dark with storm clouds, the wind howling through the broken archways. Time had all but ceased to matter to her. There was only stillness and waiting. She had abandoned any hope long ago, choosing to wait for the end of all things. No company, no voice had stirred her in countless years. Only her quiet reflection, repeating the same thoughts and questions that would forever go unanswered. Then one day, there was a sound she had not heard in centuries, footsteps. They echoed against the ancient stone, and they drew closer with each passing second. A man stepped into her sanctuary. His cloak was tattered and his face weathered, with a wild fire in his eyes that spoke of battles fought, victories earned, and countless defeats overcome. He carried no blade, only a staff, its wood worn from long use. His breath was heavy, but his resolve seemed unshakable. For a long time, he stood there watching her in silence. "You are the one they spoke of," he finally said, his voice as rough as the winds outside. "The Eternal One, the statue that lives." The Doll of Marble did not stir. Her eyes, carved in perfect likeness of life, remained focused on nothing, as they always had. She was unmoved, her spirit barely noticing his presence. "I know you hear me," he continued, undeterred. "You have seen the rise and fall of empires. You have witnessed the gods' cruelty firsthand. That is why I have come to you. I seek to challenge them, to tear them down, and I need you by my side." At those words, something in her stirred. A flicker, no more than a passing thought. His words were foolish, naive. Men, elves, even the strongest of mortals had always been pawns in the gods' games. She had learned that truth herself over countless centuries. What could this man possibly achieve, challenging the heavens? The man took a step forward, his expression fierce. "You think I am mad, do not you? But I know the truth. The gods have been ruling over us for too long, playing with our fates like we are toys. I refuse to bow to their will any longer. You have seen what they do, have not you?" Her silence persisted, though his words echoed in her mind. Yes, she had seen it all, the divine indifference, the endless cycles of suffering. Even she, born of a god's final act, was nothing more than an afterthought in the grand tapestry of existence. "I will burn down their temples," the man continued, his voice rising. "I will strike them down one by one until they remember what it means to be mortal. And you, the unkillable one, you can help me. You have lived long enough to see how they destroy us, have you not?" Still, she said nothing, but her eyes slowly turned toward him, stone joints creaking as she moved for the first time in years. The man didn't flinch, though any sane mortal would have backed away at the sight of a statue coming to life. "I have lived too long," she finally spoke, her voice low, the sound echoing like a deep, ancient song from within the stone. "I have seen every rebellion crushed, every defiance quelled. No one can stand against the gods." The man's eyes narrowed. "No one has, but that doesn't mean no one can." His defiance intrigued her. She had met many mortals in her time, but none had dared to speak of openly challenging the gods. It was madness, pure and simple. And yet there was something in his voice, a fire that had not burned in her soul for millennia. "Why do you seek to destroy them?" she asked, more out of curiosity than genuine interest. "Because they have stolen everything from me," he said, his voice thick with anger and sorrow. "They took my family, my people, my home, and for what? For their amusement, for their balance. I refuse to accept it. If they can take everything from me, then I will take everything from them." The doll of marble tilted her head slightly, a motion she had not done in what felt like eternity. The gods had taken everything from her as well, though in a different way. They had condemned her to eternal life, to an existence outside of time and death. She had been a puppet in their hands, a forgotten relic of a deity no one remembered. Yet here was a man, a mortal, who sought to rip down the very pillars of creation. It was absurd, it was impossible, but it was also inspiring. "You wish to tear down the heavens themselves," she said, her voice softer now, almost contemplative. "You seek to destroy those who made you as they made me." The man nodded. "I do. And aren't you tired of their games? Of their rules? You have been their prisoner for longer than I can imagine. Don't you want to break free?" Her marble heart stirred. She had given up on the idea of freedom long ago, resigning herself to her fate. But perhaps this man's wild ambition could reignite something within her. Perhaps it was not too late to defy the gods one last time. "I cannot die," she said, standing slowly, her stone body shifting with the weight of centuries. "But I can fight." The man's lips curled into a fierce grin. "Then fight with me. Together, we will show them that mortals are not their playthings. We will make them bleed." And so for the first time in centuries, the doll of marble moved from her place of solitude, following the man into the storm that raged outside. She had no illusions of victory. The gods were ancient, and their power was vast. But the fire in this man's eyes stirred something deep within her, a long-forgotten will to fight, to challenge, to resist. Perhaps the gods would crush them. Perhaps they would fail, like every other rebellion before them. But if there was even the smallest chance to strike back at the ones who had condemned her to this cursed existence, then she would take it. And for the first time in eons, Doll of Marble felt something akin to hope. Not for her own release, but for the chance to shatter the chains of the gods themselves.